Month continues with Saw 5. That's right, the fifth Saw movie. Who knew that we would get up to 5 at this point? And one thing I want to mention about these movies is these movies all come out a year apart from each other. They put a Saw movie out every year from 2004 to 2010. How incredible is that? Let's talk about Saw 5. Saw 5 is directed by David Hackle, who, if you guys don't know, he was the production designer on Saw 2, Saw 3, and Saw 4, and now he is the director of Saw 5. And this one is also written by Patrick Melton and Marcus Dunstan, who wrote the Saw 4. The plot of Saw 5. Spoiler alert, I feel like I have to start off these Saw reviews with a spoiler alert. I don't know. Spoiler alert from the end of Saw 4. We find out that Detective Hoffman is another apprentice of Jigsaw. And that's right. And we pick up immediately where 4 ended. And Special Agent Strom is, cutting in close to finding out, the end of Riggs' game. And he's locked in the sick room. The sick room is the room that, John Kramer was in Saw 3 for the whole movie. Agent Strom gets locked in there. He gets put in a trap. Spoiler alert, he survives. And now he's on the hunt to find out who is this other accomplice. He thinks he has a good idea that it's Hoffman, but he needs proof. And so Hoffman is basically sending him on this wild goose chase, looking for clues. And, he's giving him flashbacks of setups and, all that kind of stuff like that. And what I think of Saw 5 is, it's okay. I don't hate it. There's one Saw movie in particular that I'm not too fond of. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But Saw 5 is one that I enjoy, not as much as Saw 1, 2, 3, or even 4, really. Up to this point, it is the weakest one that we've had, at this point. I'm not saying in the whole series, I'm saying at this point. Let's talk about a couple things. Scott Patterson is Peter Strahm. I kind of talked about him a little bit before. I love Scott Patterson. I do. I love that dude. I remember him back when he was on Gilmore Girls as Luke Danes, the coffee guy, the diner guy. I love the character of Luke. In fact, he was the reason I watched Gilmore Girls. Plus, the mom was pretty hot. But anyway, I just love the character of Agent Strom. He's not a dummy. Alright, he works for the FBI, and he's not one of those, blind agents that's like, oh, really? That happened? What? No, he's smart. He survived something. He's like, look, I want to find out who the fuck's doing it to me. I think I got a pretty good idea, but I need proof in order to take this fucking bastard down. And we met Agent Hoffman before, but Saw 3 when we met him, he just had that one brief scene. He was a little fishy. Saw 4, he was bound to a electric chair the whole fucking movie, so we didn't really get too much of him in Saw 4 that, would really develop his character. Saw 5, this movie is about Hoffman. Yes, Jigsaw's in it. Yes, we have flashbacks, kind of continuing how Jigsaw came to be, events that happened before the first Saw movie and all that. And we have traps. We have a new game going on, which, by the way, that's also part of the plot also. We have this new game involving 5 people who are supposedly all connected. That whole thing's going on as well. But first off, I do want to talk about the main story arc with Strom and Hoffman. This is Hoffman's movie. It's Hoffman's origin story. This movie, and all the flashbacks of this movie, we see how Hoffman came to be an apprentice of Jigsaw, why he's helping Jigsaw, what is his whole motivation behind it, what is he thinking when he's doing all this stuff, especially because he is a cop. So, he's playing both sides of the spectrum here, which I think is a fascinating concept. It kind of reminds me of Dexter. I didn't really watch the whole show, but I've seen, episode here and there of Dexter. That's kind of what it is. He's a cop who's out killing people, basically, in his own sick ways. Then we also meet Detective Erickson, who's played by Mark Ralston in the movie. And Mark Ralston, he always seems to play a cop. I remember he was an FBI agent in the first Rush Hour movie. I've seen him on an episode of Criminal Minds, which I think he played like a sheriff in that episode or something. But still, he's always playing a cop. Why? Because that's what he's good at least from what I can tell. Mark Ralston's fine in the movie. I didn't have a problem with him. We have Betsy Russell back as Jill Tuck, who we met in Saw 4, playing Jigsaw's ex-wife. And Why was she in this movie? I don't really know. Maybe to kind of just continue the story a little bit, but she, Jill's just there. She doesn't really have much to do. Like the first time we see Jill in this movie is pretty much the only scene that I find important to Jill's story arc. It's spoiler alert. It's when she finds the tape from her ex-husband at like the lawyer's office or whatever, and he's like, "I'm leaving you a box today. Its contents are of grave importance." That part. That's pretty important. But just like all the Saw movies, it answers a couple questions while also leaving a few more at the end to find out, and stay tuned till next week's episode. But I wish it was only a week wait for a Saw movie. Maybe not. Maybe a year's a good enough time to get it as good as you can get it. But anyway, let's talk about the main game for a second. The one that's going on in like the tunnels or whatever with the Fatal Five is what that group is called. And a couple of the characters annoy the shit out of me. A couple of them I really liked. Malik is a character that I really liked. Charles was a character that I didn't like the first time I saw him. Like the first, scenario, their first trap. I didn't care for him too much. I liked a couple of his lines. After that, he kind of grew on me. But let's talk about Britt. Britt, played by Julie Benz. Yes, Darla from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Is, she's an awesome character. And she works really well with Malik. Even though they don't really know each other. They got good chemistry. And I would love to see them, do another movie together. Or even come back for another Saw movie. I'll talk about it a little bit later. But, yeah. The traps in this movie. Now, I haven't really talked about the traps too much. So really quick, I'm going to go through my favorite traps of the Saw movies thus far. I'm going to pick one trap from each Saw movie. My favorite trap from each Saw movie. Saw 1, the reverse bear trap. Saw 2, the needle pit. Saw 3, the chain trap. Saw 4, which I completely forgot to talk about, the knife trap with Cecil. Saw 5, the pendulum. Yeah, that's awesome. But does the glass coffin count as a trap too? Like, is that technically it's a trap, but you know what I mean? The glass coffin would be a close second. It really would. But yeah. And of course, with the end of every Saw movie, there are a little bit of twists. There's twists and there's cliffhangers and stuff like that. The twist in this movie, I didn't really care for the twist all that much. The one, like, I guess you could say the big twist, I saw it coming. And then after that, that's really the only twist in the movie. Because without kind of giving the ending away at least until my next review, the twist wasn't anything shocking, really. So that was a little bit disappointing. And there are a couple spots where it does seem, but I'm a sucker for the flashback stuff. I've been a sucker of the flashback stuff since they started doing it way back in like Saw 3. So I eat all that stuff up. The flashbacks with Hoffman and John, really good. You get to see the setup of the Saw 2 nerve gas house. You get to see the setup of them kidnapping Paul from Saw 1. The barbed wire guy, Yeah, so I'm a sucker for that stuff. So anytime to see a flashback was good. I think Jill was like, she didn't need to be there really, except for like that one scene. That was it. Like, she didn't have to show up like maybe one or two more times in the movie. She didn't need to be there, I guess. Hoffman, Costas Mandylor as Mark Hoffman. He's awesome. He plays a good bad guy. I love Scott Patterson. The cast, they're all like, no one is like a bad actor in these movies. There's a couple spots where they kind of overacted a little bit, but that's not that big of a deal. The twists, nothing really spectacular. All in all, guys, I do like Saw 5, but I feel like it is the weakest one of the series thus far. We still have 2 more to talk about. So, yeah. All in all, Saw 5 is getting a B-. Yeah. I was going to go C+, but given the fact that I do love all the Hoffman stuff in this movie and all the Strom stuff, I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and give it a B-. So, guys, what do you guys think of Saw 5? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Like the video, share, and subscribe. Just do it!